got her at 1 for the weigh-in. Went back to the hotel, had a nice steak, mushrooms, chips and things, you know, a few chips. Watched a bit of telly and got my head down.
A lot of money at stake, isn't there? 10,000 each side?
Yeah.
How much will that weigh on your mind when you get in the ring?
I'll forget about it. Sorry about that, but I will.
Known as one of the toughest men in Britain in the 1970s and 1980s, ex-professional heavyweight boxer who even shared the ring with the greatest, Muhammad Ali. Cliff was certainly tough. Even legendary fighter Lenny McLean, whilst out together on nights with Cliff, would rip his shirt off, show his muscles and shout, "I'm the hardest man in London," and then point over to Cliff and say, "Apart from him."
I think Cliff Fields has been stabbed twice. There's blood. I mean, I must not swear this, mate. There's blood on my head. Dave Griffiths isn't so bad. Yeah, but Cliff Fields is red with blood. There's blood everywhere, mate. All over his body. He's got a white t-shirt on with a jacket on. He's got blood everywhere, yeah?
Cliff Fields, he's another one. Had it hard all his life. He won the ABA championship when he was in the Navy. He left with cancer. They withheld his licence apparently because he cut easy. Yeah, he's got a lot of cuts. Anyway, he's had 5 fights for us now. He's never cut once in any of these fights. As our doctor can verify. So obviously something was wrong there. And they've been going on from there.
Meet Cliff Fields, a towering figure in the world of boxing, known to many as the Iron Man. Standing at an imposing 6'7", this legendary fighter didn't just participate in the sport, he dominated it, forever leaving his mark on both professional and unlicensed boxing. His name might not be as widely recognized as Muhammad Ali or Mike Tyson, but Fields' incredible toughness and iconic victories over Britain's toughest fighters, including Theguvnor, Lenny McLean, have cemented his legacy as one of the sport's true greats. Stay with us as we uncover the story of an unsung hero. From his early years and boxing accolades to his fearsome reputation on the cobbles and his tragic demise, this is the tale of a man whose resilience and fighting spirit continue to inspire generations today. Cliff Fields was born in St. Mary's Hospital, Luton, in 1943. His father was a Royal Navy heavyweight boxer until he was sunk in the war. He became the heavyweight champion of the home fleet, but the war left him deeply affected. He was torpedoed multiple times, which also caused significant injuries, including damage to his nose. After returning home, he met Cliff's mother, and they started their family. Cliff had 1 brother and 1 sister. His brother, Sid, ran a scrap yard with their cousin, a family business. Growing up, Cliff was always a good kid. He never bullied anyone and made sure to behave himself in school. He wanted to have a good school record so that when he turned 15, he could leave school and join the Royal Navy. Just like his dad, his sole focus was on becoming a boxer, following in his father's footsteps. Among his favorite boxers was Joe Erskine, who once fought for the world title. Everything worked out as Cliff had planned. At 15, he left school and walked straight into the Royal Navy. The Navy was very strict, almost like a borstal, with plenty of training. The first thing they taught him was how to swim, an obvious skill needed for someone being out at sea for long periods of time. Cliff signed on for 12 years and ended up serving for 10. After settling into the Navy, Cliff went to the physical training instructor Albert Hadstead on the HMS Borg, which was the commando carrier, and told him he wanted to be a boxer and began to train whilst out at sea. "I was never a muscular guy, just big and lean. As a boxer, I would trust in my big right hand to do the work. I'd jab, and then after a while, I'd put them away with the right. This worked for me most of the time. I suppose I was a slugger, really," Cliff once said. While learning his craft, Cliff had 35 amateur fights, winning 30 of them with first-round knockouts. He went on to win the Royal Navy Imperial Services Championships, which included the Army, Navy, and Air Force. Today, this is known as the Combined Service Championships. He reached the ABA Championship final but lost on points. At 27, Cliff decided to turn professional and wanted to leave the Navy to follow his dream of being a pro boxer. He tried to leave the Navy the legal way, but they wouldn't allow it. He ended up absconding. Eventually, he had to give himself up and was sentenced to 12 months in Colchester Military Prison. When they let him out, he ended up in front of the commanding officer in the Navy Board. Someone had told him that if he hit the officer, he'd be automatically thrown out of the Navy. Like a fool, Cliff squared up to him, took a swing, and ended up getting another 12 months inside Portsmouth's detention corps. It was a rough place, where he had to do 12 months, still without a discharge. Cliff said they reckoned it was the hardest prison in Europe at that time. He just wanted to get out and turn pro. He did his time and once again went on the run. In the end, he went on live television, telling the world that he just wanted to become a professional boxer before giving himself up. There was a big uproar, and the Navy finally relented and let him go. At the age of 25, Cliff made his pro boxing debut in 1968, quickly dispatching his opponent Rocky Davis in the first round. Cliff would go on to win his next 8 fights, each by knockout, earning a name for himself as a heavy hitter who would stand toe-to-toe and bang, coming out on top with whoever was across the ring. His style was almost Tyson Fury-esque. He would use his big 6'7" frame to lean on his opponents, roughing them up whilst peppering them with heavy jabs, ready to unleash his big right hand. And when it landed, it was night-night. In 1970, Cliff had his 9th professional fight against Brian Jewett, which he lost by TKO due to a severe cut on his eyelid. He lost his next bout in the same fashion, with the referee stopping the fight against Billy Aird due to a badly sliced eyebrow above Fields' eye. They rematched 6 months later, but again a severe cut above Fields' eye made the referee stop the fight in the 7th round. He would bounce back with 2 wins against Charlie White and Dennis Forbes, beating White on points and knocking out Forbes, earning himself his 10th career knockout. In 1971, in what would be his last professional boxing match, Cliff fought Richard Dunn in an eliminator to fight the late, great Muhammad Ali. He was on the verge of making big money. It turned out that Dunn was a southpaw, and Cliff hated fighting southpaws. During the 4th round, while hitting Dunn with body shots, Dunn threw a hook that split Cliff open. His susceptibility to being cut proved once again to be his nemesis. Blood came gushing down Cliff's face, and the referee stepped in and stopped the fight. "I still get gutted when I think about it, but that's showbiz. I'm not going to cry over it," Cliff said about the fight. Despite this setback, Cliff's manager at the time, Bobby Neal, who had once fought Terry Spinks, arranged with Mickey Duff for Cliff and Johnny Frankham to fly to Milan and Rome to do 2 exhibitions with Muhammad Ali. Some have said it was an exhibition where others have said it was just sparring. Either way, Cliff shared the ring with Muhammad Ali. Not many boxers can say that. After Rome, Cliff decided to step out of the ring and give up professional boxing. He felt it was not worth continuing since even the slightest bit of blood would cause the fight to be stopped, leaving him with no chance to succeed. Given all his losses were due to fights being stopped due to cuts, and he never actually lost a fight. Cliff went on to work as a bouncer in and around London, even working for Eddie Richardson at the door of his pub. He became known as a handy sort of guy and started minding people like Oliver Reed. He also worked for Joey Seagram, managing a club in Walford. One night outside the club, about 200 drunk men were causing trouble and wanted to fight the bouncers. Cliff knocked out 2 of them with big right hands when a man came up waving a knife. Cliff put all his weight behind his punch, and as it struck, the man's face disintegrated. He fell to the floor with his face smashed to a pulp. They managed to get back into the club before the situation escalated further. The next day, Cliff was arrested and charged with grievous bodily harm and ended up in court. They showed photos of the man's face, and Cliff was nearly sick, unable to believe what he had done to him. He was sentenced to 18 months in Wormwood Scrubs. His dad came to visit and told him how lucky he was, as the man had nearly died. If he had died, Cliff said he would have been truly gutted, as he wouldn't have wished that on anyone. Cliff was released from jail in 1978 and was back living in Dunstable. One night, while drinking in the 8 Bells, the pub manager, Johnny Stevens, said to him, "They've got a bloke in London knocking everybody out. I'll give you £1,000 to fight him." This was the first time Field had heard of Lenny McLean. He was told that McLean was knocking everyone out and was a real beast. Cliff was skint, and £1,000 was a lot of money back then, so he said, "I'll have some of that." He started training again, focusing on getting fit. Weighing 26 stone when he began, Cliff lost over 5 stone in 6 weeks. He put a bin liner on and sweated it out on the bike. He knew he had to come in good form because Lenny was a big guy and he couldn't underestimate him. The fight took place at the Rainbow Theatre in Finsbury Park, London, in 1978. Cliff was a bit nervous on the night of the fight, as it was his first time back in the ring for a while, and he didn't want to look foolish. Cliff entered the ring first, with the song Jungle Rock playing as he walked in. Lenny came out to the ring to the tune of Daddy Cool. When the bell rang, Lenny came at Cliff with everything he had, hitting hard and fast. Cliff let him hit his gloves for a minute until Lenny started to tire. Allegedly, someone in the crowd was shouting, "Nail him, Lenny, nail him!" To which Lenny replied, "You come in and nail him." At one point, McLean headbutted Cliff, who headbutted him back even harder. It was an unlicensed fight, so Cliff knew he could get away with a bit of roughness. As Lenny wore himself out, Cliff started to land some good jabs. Then, he hit Lenny with a big right hand, sending him to the floor. Lenny was completely out, so Cliff booted him halfway out of the ring. He then lifted Lenny back up, hit him again, and once more, Lenny was flat out on the canvas. A large part of the crowd, initially supporters of McLean, began to cheer for Cliff. They had thought Lenny was unbeatable, but now they respected the Iron Man. After the fight, Cliff returned to the changing room, where his brother Shane was there to congratulate him. Moments later, Lenny McLean walked in. After shaking Cliff's hand, Lenny said, "Fair fight, mate. You beat me, but I'll get you next time." It was nearly 2 years after the first fight. Cliff was training for the rematch with Lenny and was taking a run around a park in London. While running, he bumped straight into none other than Lenny himself, who was having a cigarette. Lenny asked, "Who you fighting then, Cliffy?" Cliff replied, "I'm fighting you, Lenny." Lenny's face was a picture, as he hadn't been told that the fight was on. Cliff told him, "You want to stop smoking, Len?" Lenny responded, "It don't make a difference, Cliffy. I can't breathe after 2 rounds anyway." Cliff admitted that he liked a good smoke and a drink after a fight, just to calm down. It was just after Christmas in 1980, and the rematch was on. The second fight was a split promotion. Cliff made about £6,000 for the rematch, which would be around £108,000 in today's money. The fight played out much like the first one. People still thought Lenny was going to beat Cliff. However, Cliff finished him in the 3rd round with a vicious combination that sent Lenny crumbling down. Cliff has said he honestly thought he had killed him because Lenny stayed on the deck for more than 20 minutes. When Lenny finally got up, he said to someone, "Right, who's next then?" He thought he had won the fight and didn't know where he was, despite beating him up twice. Cliff Field became good friends with Lenny McLean, who even gifted him a couple of his suits some years ago. Cliff also refereed the second fight between Lenny McLean and Roy Shaw at the Rainbow Theatre. After beating Lenny for the second time, Frank Warren told Cliff that Roy Shaw wanted to fight Lenny again and asked if Cliff would referee it. Roy Shaw didn't stand a chance, and Lenny destroyed him. Lenny and Cliff would go around all the clubs and pubs in London. Len would get drunk, rip off his shirt and declare, "I'm the most powerful man in London." Cliff would just look at him and laugh. While Lenny had a reputation as a bit of a bully, him and Cliff became great friends. After his 2 fights with McLean, Cliff would go on to box a fighter named Isaac Hussein, whose nickname was Tashaka, for £6,000 in a 10-round fight at the Mayfair Ballroom. The night before, Cliff was drinking and woke up in a fireplace. His mate reminded him about the fight, and on the night of the bout, he learned it was changed to a 12-rounder for the NBC Championship of Great Britain. During the fight, Tashaka proved to be a clever fighter, but without a hard punch. Although the crowd thought Cliff had won, Tashaka was given the decision, causing an uproar. Cliff, unfazed, went to the bar and ordered 6 pints of lager, asking a bloke who won. When told the other guy, he simply ordered another 6 pints. Cliff later rematched Tashaka but again lost on points, although he never had a mark on him in either fight. He decided to take a break and went to the Channel Islands to rest. After returning home, Cliff fought Ron Redrup for the NBC unlicensed British title, which was featured in the award-winning documentary Box On. Redrup was a very tough opponent. Cliff put him down a couple of times and asked the ref to stop the fight as he was splitting Redrup everywhere. The fight was stopped, and Cliff won along with a £20,000 check. Cliff Field's last fight was against a gypsy in 1984 whilst he was working at a place called Caesar's Palace near Luton. One day, after arguing with an Irish bar girl, Cliff, in a temper, barged past a group of gypsies, telling them to get out of his way. One of them stood up and hit him in the eye with a beer glass, causing severe damage. He was taken straight to the hospital, and after the operation, the doctors told him he had lost his eye. Devastated, Cliff hit the bottle and ended up on the dole. His boxing career was finished, and he returned to working in the scrapyard, which didn't bring in nearly the same amount of money he was used to. After slowly declining due to mental health problems and alcoholism, Cliff Fields passed away on October 31, 2010, at the age of 67. His story and legacy were captured in the book, A Cut Above the Rest, The Cliff Fields Story by Paul Knight and Jamie O'Keefe, which details his remarkable journey through the world of boxing. Fields' life was marked by both triumph and tragedy. Despite his struggles with mental health and substance abuse, his resilience and achievements in the ring left a lasting impression on the boxing community and hard man culture. His story serves as an inspiring example of determination and perseverance, demonstrating how he overcame numerous obstacles to achieve his dreams. His legacy continues to inspire new generations, reminding them of the raw and unfiltered essence of the sport during its unlicensed era. His contributions to boxing, both inside and outside the ring, remain a significant part of the sport's history. Rest in peace, Cliff Chopper Field, aka Iron Man. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the life and legacy of Cliff Field. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe to Dark Sleuth Secrets. Your support helps us create more content like this and get it noticed by more viewers. By engaging with our videos, you're helping it move up in the algorithm, allowing more boxing enthusiasts and fans of Cliff Field to discover his incredible story. If you have any Cliff Field stories that we missed out, share them in the comments below. We would love to hear them. Thanks for watching, and until next time, stay curious and keep sleuthing.